Hey, what's up, YouTube? So, I know a lot of people maybe lost their 50-50 on Kazuha or just didn't get him. But we all know you're going to probably need a second animo character for Abyss, and if you don't have Jean or Venti, you're probably going to need a second one. So, I decided I'm going to make a quick Sucrose guide. I'm going to kind of just cover everything and, just give you the best way to build her. You can build her very similarly to Kazuha because they fill almost the same role. Kazuha will just do what Sucrose does, slightly better. But anyways, so I'm going to talk about constellations first, because the constellations are a very important factor of what make Sucrose so good. So at Constellation 1, you gain an extra E charge. This means that if you're using a weapon, such as Sacrificial Fragments, you can essentially get almost 2 to 3 charges of your E, which means you're going to be able to group enemies quite effectively because there's going to be almost no cooldown. For Constellation 2, your duration of your ultimate, your Q ability, is going to be increased by an entire 2 seconds. This gives you a lot more crowd control, and it's basically just a good ability. Constellations 3 and 5 are just going to be E and Q levels respectively. Constellation 4 is that every 7 normal and charge attacks will reduce the cooldown of your E by 1 to 7 seconds, depending on how many charge attacks you do. So the more charge attacks and normal attacks you do, your cooldown will reduce a lot quicker. This plays into her talents very well and almost makes you have to build her slightly different than you would have to build another support. For Sucrose's Q ability, whenever you trigger an elemental absorption, your team will get a 20% elemental damage bonus according to whichever element is infused or absorbed into the ultimate ability, right? So the extra 2 seconds from the Q duration from Constellation 2 gives you a lot more time to put an element into your Q to get that elemental damage bonus. The next thing to talk about for Sucrose are her passives. Her passives are really useful again to what make her kit work. So when Sucrose triggers a swirl reaction, all characters in your party, that includes your teammates if you're in co-op, have their elemental mastery increased by 50 for 8 seconds. 50 for 8 seconds isn't that much. It's not really back-breaking if you don't get it, but it is a useful slight advantage to do that. You need a lot of coordination to use it, and it's very tricky to use properly. However, the talent that really makes Sucrose shine is her passive talent 2. Now, for a passive talent 2, when your E or your Q hits an enemy, all party members will gain 20% of Sucrose's EM for 8 seconds. So you can get a potential of 20% plus 50 with both of her talents, but it's going to be a lot more difficult to do than just getting the 20%. So because of the 20% elemental damage or elemental mastery transfer, you want to build Sucrose with as much EM as you can, but it also is important to note that this passive cannot stack, and every time you trigger it, it just resets the 8-second timer. But on to talents while we're here. Again, if you have Constellation 4 Sucrose, you want to level up her talent, her auto attack talent, to level 6. Level 6 is a good place to leave it. You don't need to invest more resources into it past that point because it's not going to be dealing a fantastic amount of damage. You can see it's got quite low multipliers. But it's useful because you're going to be keeping Sucrose out for a little bit longer with her C4 just to get that cooldown. E and Q are where your talents really sit. You want to level these up to level 6. If you can, level them up all the way to 9. I find that it's worth putting character talents like this, like your supports, as high level as you can get them without crowning them, because it's just going to be more useful. The more damage you can get out of them being off field, but still dealing the damage, means you're going to have quicker rotations and quicker fights. But if you don't have C4 with Sucrose, you can leave this talent at level 1, put this to level, both of these to level 7 or 8 or 6 or whichever number you want to get them to that you feel you want to put your resources into. I feel personally that the higher the better. So, like I said, for Sucrose, because of a passive talent 2, you're going to want a full EM build to transfer the maximum amount possible to your other party members. So you want it to be level 90 because we all know that you get a 34% extra swell damage bonus from a character being level 90 as opposed to being level 80. Mine's level 88 surely because I don't have any more talent books to put into Sucrose by the time I'm making this guide. I'll probably level 90 her soon within the week, but at this current moment in time, I'm just missing that little bit of talent books. It's also important to notice that Sucrose at max ascension has a 39% animo damage bonus. This is only 7.6% less animo damage bonus than what you would get from a 5-star plus 20 animo damage goblet. This means that you don't have to run an animo damage goblet, and you can run an elemental mastery goblet. For her weapons, sacrificial fragments at higher refinements, or even at refinement rank 2 plus, because at refinement rank 2, it's a flipper coin. But from refinement rank 2 onwards, you can start using sacrificial fragments. Sacrificial fragments has got the highest elemental mastery of any 4-star weapon, and like I said, with a Constellation 1, you basically can abuse sacrificial fragments because you get 3 charges instead of 2. Because you get the charge from normal charge, then you get the charge from the Constellation, and you get the charge from sacrificial fragments. Which, in my opinion, is amazing if you need that quick, constant crowd control. Weapons, you can put them all the way to level 90. I just have it at 80 out of 80 because I haven't had the resources to level it up. Other weapons that you can use for Sucrose is you can use a Mappa Mare. I have an R5 one, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what refinement rank you have. They're both a good weapon. The trade-off is you have higher attack for the Mappa Mare, but less elemental mastery. You're basically trading your elemental mastery for attack. Other weapons that can work, you can run Woodsith, although it's important to note that your Q and your E, because it's Animo and Swell, can't crit. Fofonios Codex works well if you need energy recharge, though I feel like you don't really need to run that if you have Mappa Mare or Sacrificial Fragments, because you're going to be generating enough energy back. If you have a 5-star weapon, you can use Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds, but for the same reason of Woodsith, it's diminishing returns. Also, you're not going to really get the passive because Sucrose isn't going to be on the field for a long time. The only 4-star weapons that have Elemental Mastery are these two. The rest don't. There's no 5-star Catalyst at the moment with Elemental Mastery. So Sucrose having her weapon being a 4-star makes her be extremely budget friendly to build. As for artifacts, because it's a full EM build, you go for, well, full EM build. You want your hat, Elemental Mastery. This is a little bit difficult to get, so if you don't have an Elemental Mastery hat, you can use Attack Percent hat. You'll get kind of there, but you won't be dealing as much damage or transferring as much of your Elemental Mastery. Like I noted before, you don't need to run an Animo Damage Cup because Sucrose has that inherent scaling for Animo damage. Instead, you can just run a Elemental Mastery Cup. Okay, so the other piece is your sands. Sands are Elemental Mastery, like everything else. So full EM build just means that these 3 pieces are going to be Elemental Mastery. These you can't really change. But on these, you want Elemental Mastery on your substats and Energy Recharge. Your substats you want to focus on are Energy Recharge, Attack Percent, and Crit Rate, Crit Damage, or basically anything else. I found that for Sucrose, it doesn't really matter because you have EM as the main stats on a lot of your artifacts. You can't get it as a substat. So, that's Sucrose's artifacts. Aside from what stats you want, 4-piece Viridescent Venerer is best. For 4-piece Viridescent Venerer, you will deal less you'll deal more damage than what you will for a two-piece. So the trade-off for the two-piece Viridescent two-piece Wanderers is that you'll transfer about 12.5% more EM, and because you have that 80% extra EM, but you'll be dealing about 12.5% less damage. You also won't get the Animo Shred, but you'll get the Animo damage bonus because of the two-piece. So in my opinion, if you have a four-piece Viridescent set with all of the elemental stats that you need, run it. It is by far much better than the two-piece Wanderer's Troop, two-piece Viridescent Venerer. But anyways, aside from everything else, the quick TLDR here is that Sucrose, you want to build her on a full EM build, because you're going to transfer the most amount and you're going to swirl for the most amount. The other thing is if you have C4 Sucrose, you level up this talent to level 6 and you leave it at there. If you don't have C4 Sucrose, you can leave it at talent level 1. Otherwise, you build all of these talents to 6+, as high as you want. You want to focus on passive talent 2, building around this rather than passive talent 1. Artifacts, you want to run 4-piece Viridescent Venerer. If you cannot, you run 2-piece Viridescent, 2-piece Wanderer's Troop. Weapons, you run either Sacrificial Fragments or Mappa Mare, but Sacrificial Fragments is better. Thank you all for the time. Hope this guide was kind of helpful. It was a little bit jumbled up on my end. I apologize for that. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, think about leaving a follow or subscribe. And yeah, hope to see you soon and hope you enjoy your week.